I don't want to set the world on fire. I just want to start a flame in your heart. In my heart I have but one desire, and that one is you. No other will do. I've lost all ambition for worldly acclaim. I just want to be the one you love. And with your admission that you feel the same, I'll have reached the goal I'm dreaming of. Believe me, I don't set the world on fire.
In Fallout 3, you play the role of a Vault Dweller from Vault 101. When you first play the game, you go through most of your early life to start the game, and this is actually quite unique. In a movie or show, you might be given flashbacks of what happened to a character early on, but in a game, that doesn't work as well. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Most of the time you have a character that is very strong, as in very well written, to make up for a little less of a story at the beginning of a game. Some games have exceptions to this, however. We didn't know too much about John Marston's earlier career in the first Red Dead Redemption. However, with the second installment of the series, we get to see the struggles he had before the first game. This still isn't really giving the sort of childhood that Fallout 3 does. By the time you walk out of the vault, you already know a couple things about the main character. Number 1, their mother died when they were born. Number 2, their father thinks differently than the others, along with how the others think. I'll explain that in a second. Number 3, they were bullied. Whether this bullying was effective or not kind of depends on player choice, but overall it was not very effective. Number 4, they lost their vault along with some of the people they had known their entire life. Not lost, of course, you can come back to the vault later on and save what's left of it, I guess, but a couple people died, and more importantly, the Overseer might have died, depending on player choice. And the most important of all these things, number 5, they lived in a controlled environment where the Overseer was a dictator and where their life was dictated by this person. The main reason this is important to me is because it gives a reason behind why the main character does what they do. You as the player have the option to become a slaver and a murderer of innocents, or become the slaver of the wasteland. But every choice you make could have an explanation. I'm using an extreme example here, so do keep that in mind, but the North Korean dictatorship, or as Wikipedia says, unitary one-party socialist republic under a totalitarian... Okay, screw that. Has a couple things in common with the system Vault 101 has. They are both hermits to the rest of the world, they both employ police that serve their leaders and will do what they say, and they both brainwash their population. In the early game, you take a test called the GOAT. This test is meant to see who you will become in the future. However, this test has one question that I want to focus on, and I quote, "Who is indisputably the most important person in Vault 101? He who shelters us from the harshness of the atomic wasteland, and to whom we owe everything we have, including our lives. And the answers are all on a multiple choice question. The Overseer. I know this was probably a joke of sorts. The whole vault is supposed to be a sort of joke, like talking about government, I guess. Or maybe I'm just reading it entirely wrong. But when you think about the main character, who is a child, who has lived in that environment for their entire lives, and what people say outside of the vault, jokingly, is pretty messed up. They've been living in an environment of fear, and yeah, it's not very good. The reason why the people of North Korea don't rebel is because of that fear, their belief in their leader, the godlike power that they have, and most importantly, the fact that they have never lived a different life. These are all traits that could be shown in the characters inside of Vault 101. From the security forces patrolling the hallways and cracking down on dissidents, to the small test that makes you know who is the most important person in the vault. The character has no way they could have learned anything else other than what he was told by this vault. Right? Wrong. There is one main figure who is different than the vault from the very beginning. Your father, James, has his own thoughts about how things should work for a while. But wait, how did your father do this if he was locked away inside of the vault for all of his life just like you? He would end up brainwashed as well in a system like that. Except he was not born in the vault. He was a member of Project Purity, and he was not born in Vault 101 at all. You were not born in Vault 101 either, rather being born in Jefferson Memorial, in case you haven't played the game. Your father was the key to making you see things the way he saw things. These factors all combine to make a character that has reasoning behind every action the player could make. No matter how insane or illogical the player is, the main character makes sense. Killed a bunch of slaves? You've never seen slaves, and you believe the people who tell you slaves are not human because you've been lied to your whole life. Saved town from raiders? Your father taught you that it's right to save people and be the best person you can be, I assume, because he seems like that sort of person. The main character at the beginning of the game is already amazing because they are able to be molded into the player's liking and still make sense. But of course, the choices you make outside the vault is what really makes the game shine. When you step out of the vault for the first time, you are completely alone in an unforgiving world. You have minimal supplies, and you start to wander towards whatever you can find. I remember walking down from the vault to the town of Megaton for the first time. I remember the beauty that it all had, being able to see this dead, isolated world that really had nothing left. There was no people. There was a high school nearby with a bunch of raiders inside. There was a person who was hiding from, I forget his name, from the bar. And I remember just going to Megaton and seeing the giant doors open for the first time, walking around. I remember I spent hours walking around, getting quests and just looking around. I did get lost because I didn't understand how everything worked. I was trying to find, Craterside Supply. I don't know how I got lost. Maybe it's just the town overall is a little confusing. Maybe it's just me being dumb. But one thing I love about this little town is how massive of a quest you can already complete the second you get it. A quest where the character can show their morality, because the answer seems obvious. You could blow up a bomb, or a nuclear bomb at that, at the center of Megaton for money and luxury at the expense of the people, or disarm the bomb in Megaton and help the people there, but you get less money and less luxury. You have a couple quests inside of Megaton, like the Wasteland Survival Guide and the ability to learn the game, but that's not all. There's also like a quest where you can help this guy with addiction. There's Jericho, who is inside, who is a former raider, who has now put that life behind him. And I know the thrill will leave you when you replay over and over again, but the amount of things to see in Fallout 3 is pretty diverse. I know that's for every Fallout game, but I mean, come on. There's a settlement run entirely by children, who you can't kill because Bethesda doesn't appreciate child murder. Please just let me do it once. I'm kidding, YouTube. Please don't demonetize me. I mean, that doesn't really matter yet because I'm a small YouTube channel, so I don't even know if you'll notice me. Then there's also a slaver group. Yeah, sure, why not? Paradise Falls. A group dedicated to preserving technology and also having a cool name called the Brotherhood of Steel, because they really just had to have a cool name and a cool motto, ad Victoriam. And then there is the subgroup of them called the Outcasts. That is what they're called, the Outcasts. And I mean, they're really there just because they want to focus on technology specifically, like their original view, because they don't really care about people. They just care about technology and keeping it from people, which, I mean, makes sense because of the nuclear bombs and everything. There's also a massive aircraft carrier called Rivet City that has become a city. The ruins of what once was the capital of a great nation, Washington, D.C., which has become a complete war zone with Brotherhood members and super mutants fighting everywhere. And then there's the vaults. I remember going through the vaults for the first time and feeling this creepy sensation. People tend to say whenever there's a game that has just this empty feeling to it, it feels like it doesn't have any content to it. It feels empty. Fallout 3 does have an eerie feeling about it. That feeling where you can almost feel that bad things have happened there. Like, you can tell that people were once living and thriving here. That empty feeling that something died here. The feeling of loneliness in a world of death and destruction. It's almost like you can feel exactly what happened through the destroyed ruins of the places you were going through. And there's almost like hints of what happened. Like maybe something messed up, like a baby blanket or a skeleton with a teddy bear next to it. Which I love, that like attention to detail in making the world what it is. Like, of course you could just focus on killing things and just walking around and having fun and focusing on the glitches and things like that, which I will admit there's still some glitches. But I just love that bit of world where you can see the darkness and the grim setting that Fallout 3 does. And I think out of all the Fallout games, Fallout 3 does that the best. However, the beauty of Fallout is not death. The beauty of Fallout is that life continues. I know the motto for Fallout is war never changes. But the thing is, there wouldn't be war if there wasn't people. Well, unless you count the ant war, but you know what I mean. There wouldn't be war without things to do war in the first place. So it's not war that never changes. If you look very deep down, it's people that never change. There's so many people in Fallout that fight to the death over such small things, even though so many of them could live in harmony. It's not war that never changes, it's people. Again, people never change. There will be hurtful people, there will be love and hate, but above all else, as long as two factions exist, the phrase does apply. War shows the weakness of man, but the ability to rebuild is what is its strength. The ability to live. Most of the games in Fallout have this general idea, but of all the games, I feel like Fallout 3 does this the best. In the original Fallout, the world is still in decline, and you find the world bleak and desperate as you fight the Master and his army of mutants. In Fallout 2, you focus on rebuilding towns and helping people start to thrive. In Fallout New Vegas, you focus on who gets to own the thriving Strip and the Mojave as a whole. In Fallout 76, the game is advertised as being able to rebuild America, but let's be honest, it's about fighting dragons with plasma swords with your buddies while having 18 mutations and jumping towards the moon. In Fallout 4, it does have a pretty big focus on rebuilding with the whole settlement, like being able to have settlements and things like that, but Preston Garvey kind of ruined that. I'm not going into that, but if you know, you know. In Fallout 3, the game centers around Project Purity, which is literally about saving the wasteland. Sure, the Enclave are the bad guys of the game, and they try to destroy Project Purity, but you can't even really side with them, so they're not really that big of a deal. Sure, the Enclave and the Brotherhood of Steel do help you make your choice, but your goal is to help rebuild what humanity has destroyed, and your goal is to help the world you live in, or be the one to do it even further, if you can, which you can't really. Again, I know the story is a little one-sided at points, which can be annoying, and I get people complain about that a lot, and that's one of the things people hate, is that there's so much choice in all the other Fallout games, and then Fallout 3 has a little less choice. However, the biggest moral decision the player can make at the end of the game is whether you will sacrifice yourself, or whether, I forget, Lyons, is that it? Paladin Lyons, something like that, has to sacrifice herself. It's been a while since I played through Fallout 3. I am a fan. It's been a while, though. The biggest moral decision you can make is that. And whether you die or not, it could be a bad game design. It's just the one choice you have is whether you die or not. But honestly, I kind of agree with you there. The ending of Fallout 3 is a little underwhelming, and overall, the story of Fallout 3 isn't the best. I'll admit that much. But it's not exactly the story that is supposed to be the focus of Fallout 3, in my opinion. It's just the side quests, the like setting of Fallout 3 and all this other things that are added onto it really do make it a lot better. However, back to what I was saying, it's not really war that never changes. It is people and their ways that will never change. The same cycle will always repeat, and people will always be fighting in constant conflict, not because of war and its ways, but because people and their ways. I get that most people prefer Fallout New Vegas for so many good reasons, but at the end of the day, it comes down to personal preference. Also, so I don't get completely crucified by you guys, Fallout New Vegas is my close second favorite because, holy crap, it's Fallout New Vegas, how could I not? And I mean, it's still a very good game. And I mean, yeah, don't crucify me. I'll talk about it later, just don't crucify me now, if you want me to talk about it later. The setting of Fallout 3 is probably one of my favorite things. However, other people might find it pretty bland and might prefer the desert of Fallout New Vegas. Fallout 3 isn't the best game in the world, but considering it was the first 3D Fallout game, I think it did a lot of things right. The only thing I'm trying to say in this video is if you have not played the game, and you're not just a complete, like, I hate Fallout 3, I'm probably not going to change your mind if you, like, make yourself think you hate Fallout 3. If you're someone new, and you're hearing all these things about how bad Fallout 3 is, just give it a try. If it's on sale, if it's not that big of a cost, just give it a try, and you might have fun. I'm not saying you will, 100%. There's still a lot of problems, but it's still a Fallout game, and it's still a good Fallout game. It's old, sure, and it's starting to show its age, but if you can maybe install a couple mods just like Fallout New Vegas, you can have a lot of fun. That's the end of my rant on Fallout 3, guys. If you guys like the video, make sure to hit the subscribe button because you might end up liking more of my content, and I'll see you in the next video.
see I've found you at last!